Hey guys, welcome to my Geek Talk. Today let's discuss Avatar Smoke and Shadows #2. This is the new graphic novel that takes place years after The Last Airbender. If you're not familiar, I do have a review for the first part somewhere around here, so go ahead and look at that. Let's start off and talk about Aang and Katara. I will say, though I'm glad to see them together, I always personally shipped for Katara and Zuko. I always felt they were more appropriate for each other, and I felt that if they did develop a romantic interest in each other, it would be a little bit more compelling, I think, because of the whole betrayal that Zuko had in book 2 and all that stuff. But whatever, Katara, Aang, they're together now, it's cool. But I do feel they're a little bit too sappy. Like Katara calls him, I think Babe or something, or sweetie, you know, she says sweetie like all the time. Like she did it in this comic, she's done it in the previous comics, which I haven't reviewed, like The Promise and The Rift and all that stuff. It's a little bit too cutesy, you know. I never really got that vibe from them within the context of the TV show, and it's like it's a little bit too lovey-dovey. I don't think that really pans out, but it only happens for a little bit. And I do like that it was touched upon that dating the Avatar is a hard thing to do. Like, he always has to leave and do something for the world, and they don't have time to just spend with family and friends, which is what Katara and Sokka are going to do. They're going to go back to the Southern Water Tribe and, you know, kind of help rebuild. Be that as it may, there is another relationship thing going on here between Zuko, Mai, and this new character Kylo, and it's definitely awkward. Like, even Aang, when he first meets them, is like, hey, you guys are back together, and they're like, no, this is her new boyfriend. And throughout the whole comic, they go through how Zuko misses her, how her heart was broken, how she's not really giving her all in her new relationship because she doesn't want to get hurt anymore. So it's not so much that she may not like Kylo, it's more a fact that she's not letting herself develop enough feelings for him the same way that he does for her. And, you know, all this basically some high school drama stuff going on in this comic. So if you're not really into that, you probably won't like this comic, because a lot of the comic has to do with that. But in terms of the actual storyline, we are still dealing with these dark spirits, which is the reason why Zuko asked Aang to come in the first place. So they go to the Fire Lord temple where all the Fire Lords are laid to rest. And it's cool because there was actually a little tidbit which never really occurred to me. Sozin denied all previous history of the Fire Lords and the Fire Nation history. He said everything started with me and it began with me, time started with me. And it was like really weird. And it's kind of cool because, I mean, some, you know, dictators and tyrants in the past have done that, especially like pharaohs. If you look at Egypt, they always try to, like, you know, abolish the previous history some of the time, and, you know, like, say it's just all about me. So that was an interesting tidbit, and I like that it was in there. But as they go through the tomb, they actually figure out where the first dark spirits came from, and it's actually very interesting because they go through the pre-Avatar, pre-Fire Nation time period when there was warlords and things like that within the Fire Islands, and they were all separated. And it wasn't until the first Fire Lord that they all were under one rule. And the reason why the dark spirits were there is because these warlords were very cruel to their people, and so spirits will start taking away their sons and their daughters and their family. And now that's kind of what's happening now in this new storyline. But then when Aang talks to the spirit, the spirit's like, well, we stopped once the Fire Lord took over and started, you know, keeping all the people in line, keeping like the warlords and all that stuff like aligned. We still haven't returned. And so Aang's like, oh snap, like, you know, like, those dark spirits aren't really dark spirits, they're something else, which get revealed at the end of the comic book. And it's a really huge cliffhanger storyline, so I'm not even gonna spoil it here. I am spoiling some of the other stuff that's happening in the comic, but not the ending, because the ending is a huge thing, and look out for that. It's pretty good. I also like the aspects of really looking into Zuko as a leader and how hard it is to be a leader in general. How you have to kind of be loyal to your family, to yourself. I mean, that was touched upon a little bit in the first part, but it's actually being developed more and more here. Zuko has this advisor, or not this advisor, but he's like his, you know, military hand, or like the guy who heads up, you know, his task force. Zuko is trying to figure out a way to get back Mei's brother who got kidnapped, and just figure out what's going on with the dark spirits, what they want. So he's trying to do more investigating. He's not trying to build up like a military force to fight the dark spirits. And initially his military advisor is okay with that because, you know, he wants to do that. But once his own son is kidnapped and a bunch of other people's sons and daughters are kidnapped, he's like, okay, you know what, I gotta take this into my own hands. I've got to fight. And I like that, you know, that's a pretty compelling storyline to go through. especially for something like this. Like, I like how Avatar is very good at balancing, you know, the kiddish stuff. You know, you have like the little love triangle, the kitty stuff with the jokes. Like, by the way, this is extremely funny, this whole comic book series, and they get the tone of Avatar so right, because like I said, has that perfect balance between the funny and the kiddiness, and also like these really deep storylines. And this happens here, like with Zuko, you know, when he's not around to lead, the people have to take up for themselves. And like some of the people are saying, well, you know, this new society that came up and like helped my daughter, like they did more for me than you have. Like, what have you been doing? And that's something that leaders have to deal with quite a bit. They have a lot of responsibility to deal with. They have there's a lot on their shoulders, you know, to take on. And I like that Zuko is dealing with that. Like, being a Fire Lord isn't just, I get to rule and tell people what to do, like something that Azula would have done. But here we have Zuko, who's really dealing with it, like dealing with true leadership issues. And I like that this comic book is going into it in a very deep and compelling manner. But yeah, like I said, if you are an Avatar fan, you should be reading this comic book series. It's the best way of continuing the storyline and keeping the tone. Like, the writers, I don't think the creators are involved with the direct writing of this graphic novel. I should find the writer's name, but whoever is doing it is keeping the exact tone. It's like watching an episode or a series of episodes of Avatar, but in comic book form, and it does it so well. And yes, if you're a fan of it, you definitely should be reading this comic book or graphic novel. I'm a little late on this review, so I'm sure most of you Avatar fans have read this already, but if you haven't for some reason, go out and get it. It's a pretty good book. I'll catch you guys on the next one, Smoke and Shadow Part 3. We'll get a reveal to what this ending was, which was a very compelling ending. It was a very good cliffhanger. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, yes! You know, because I actually mentioned it in my first review. So if you look at my first review, you can figure out what I might be talking about. But yes, that's it. See you guys later. Peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends. The question still stands. Who was the better Avatar? Avatar Aang, the last airbender? Or Avatar Korra, the legend? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Oh, I actually kind of like it. Oh my god, I like airbending a lot. Oh god, I like it.